This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Shice Podcast Network.
Hello, Bad Movie Lovers.
I'm back.
That's right, I have returned from my honeymoon, a married man, and
if you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
I wasn't sure that I was going to come back and do another episode before the end of the year. We had the honeymoon, and then when we got back, we were only a few days out from Christmas. And maybe I'm crazy, but it could be the holiday spirit talking too. But I wanted to do a Christmas episode for all you listeners out there who have helped grow the show and supported me throughout this journey. I wouldn't be doing this otherwise, and I really appreciate it. And this is just, some fun to give back during the holidays. And as part of that fun, we're going to do a little giveaway. So between now, which is December 22nd, and the end of the year on December 31st, everybody who is either a monthly subscribing member or has provided a one-time donation of any kind at ko-fi.com/badmovieswelove, LOVE, where the new members-only bonus content is up also, by the way. Or head over to Apple Podcasts and give the show a rating and a review, and I might even read it at the outset of one of these shows one day, but you too will be entered for a chance to win a copy of Anna and the Apocalypse, the zombie apocalypse Christmas musical. It has become a Christmas staple in our home, and I hope it does in yours as well. But you gotta enter to have a chance to win. But enough of the housekeeping. My buddy Scott Cole is back again, and you might remember him from our episode on Blank Man that was pretty recent, and you might also remember that he stopped by to do an episode on Empire Records. But today he's here to celebrate the holiday season as we take a look at Nora Ephron's 1994 quirky Christmas comedy, Mixed Nuts.
Oh, maybe I've made a mistake. Like, maybe this isn't good.
This ruined my Christmas.
You are a piece of crap.
That bothered me less than her pouring milk into that, cycling bottle.
Don't take it too seriously if you watch it.
It's a doorbell. Of course you can hear it. It's designed for you to hear it.
They're at the vet, and Felix is taking animal tranquilizers, and he's barking.
I was like, she could probably do better.
Yeah, everybody gets concussed.
Don't empty the bullets out of a gun by just shooting it randomly around your apartment.
I would say Christmas trees and the soundtrack do all the heavy lifting and making you feel like it's Christmas.
I can clearly see that this movie was fun to make and that the people in it are having fun making it, and that makes it more fun for me to watch.
PG-13, Scott can watch it. He'll go in the basement and watch it, and he'll have a great time.
Scott, welcome back for a special bonus edition. Well, it's not a bonus episode technically in that it's not going to subscriber content, but it is a bonus episode in that we're squeezing it in for the holidays because it's Christmas movie time. I mean, it's Christmas time, but it's also Christmas movie time as a result. And you're rejoining us once again to talk about Mixed Nuts.
Yes, perfect, man. Thank you for having me back so soon. I feel like we just did it for Blank Man, but I think, I don't remember. I guess we were talking earlier this year, and I mentioned this as one of the movies that I would consider for the topic of the pod, and you were like, maybe we could make a holiday episode out of it. I was like, I filed it away in my brain. I was like, I hope you didn't forget. And you didn't forget. You brought it up to me. So
I did not forget.
This crazy Christmas movie that seems to have been mostly forgotten. I feel like this is the one movie set at Christmas that you don't see constantly on TV.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's like, and then of course it was very it wasn't paid a lot of attention to when it came out, which doesn't help. It came and went very fast, but it's always been a beloved favorite of mine. I've just watched it so many times. I watched it a million. I know I just would wear this tape out when I was a kid. I'm not sure what it was about it that I liked so much, but I watched it so many times when I was young.
And so, was this a movie that was like you got for like in 1995 when this had hit VHS a year later?
Yeah, so I remember, I think the first time I saw it was just like a rental. But I know I liked it so much that I was interested in buying it. Of course, this was back in the day when you had to wait forever for some VHSs to become
Mhm.
enough, like to lower the price enough where you could buy them just like at a store. But I remember I kind of kept tabs on all the movies that had come out, like especially the ones I liked and when they were going to be released when I could buy them. But I remember going to Media Play with my family and being surprised by the Mixed Nuts tape sitting there. Like I think I gasped probably. I was like, oh, it's here. We can get it. So I begged my parents, they bought it for me. So that's the thing is I was thinking about if this was one of the Columbia House movies, and it wasn't, because I remember the specific story of going and seeing it and being surprised and having them buy it for me. So yeah, and then it was after that, I guess, where I just watched it so many times, and not even at Christmas. I think I was watching it a lot throughout the year too. Yeah, and I don't know why. I was a big Steve Martin fan.
Yeah.
Always kind of a big Steve Martin fan. I think also the Madeline Kahn part was something I enjoyed because my dad, when we were younger, showed us the Mel Brooks movies, and I watched Clue a lot, so I just got to know Madeline Kahn a lot through those movies, and I thought she was funny in this too. So I think those are probably my main entry points, I'd say, for this one.
And like, how old were you when you saw this for the first time?
Okay, I would have been like I'd have been like 9 or maybe 10, 9 or 10. Yeah,
Okay.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
And when you rented it for the first time, like, was this something that your parents watched with you, or is this something where they sort of looked at it as like, oh, it's innocent enough. We're not concerned with the sometimes very disturbing content that is present in this film? Or is this something that was like, this is a family Christmas movie that we watch together?
Definitely not a family one. Pretty much the way it went in my house was if it was PG-13 or below, I was okay to rent and watch it. The R movies didn't come until later, but with like a couple of exceptions. But no, it was mostly if it's PG-13, Scott can watch it. He'll go in the basement and watch it, and he'll have a great time. And that's what it was. I don't. The whole family did not get into this one, I don't think.
And did you ever like watch this with your parents or your dad or anything?
I saw it. I know I saw it with my sister. My sister is 2.5 years older than me, and she didn't like it. She was with the majority of people.
Yeah,
on
she's
this
not
movie.
alone in that.
Yeah, she was not really a fan of it. I think she was kind of like, I don't get why you think this is such a big deal. And I'm like, but it's so funny. It's great. But no, I don't think if I were to guess, I would guess my parents never saw this.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
But since you brought up your sister, and like, I mean, obviously, like I said, a lot of people didn't like this. Most people didn't like this. It has a 14 Metascore. I think it's, something like that on Rotten Tomatoes as well. It's got like a 14%. So very, very low critical values in terms of scores. But like, why would you say that is? Because, as I had sort of posted yesterday, I'm like this is Nora Ephron, like during the Nora Ephron years, right? Like this is Steve Martin, like very close after SNL. Like he's almost at the height of his fame as well. Like this cast overall, like Juliette Lewis is like on the rise at the time. Adam Sandler, Lee Schreiber, Parker Posey, a lot of heavy hitters. Like Rob Reiner just kind of has like a throwaway, like, cameo role almost as the doctor here. And you mentioned Madeline Kahn as well. So like, what do you think it was? Rita Wilson? Like, what do you think it was that sort of turned people off of this movie?
I think that it didn't help that it came out right after Sleepless in Seattle, because I think people had almost gotten used to that kind of Nora Ephron, kind of the lighter, sweeter one. Whereas this movie is more like her writing and Password, which can be dark and acerbic. But I think it didn't help that it was so close to Sleepless in Seattle, and they had the ads like from the director of Sleepless in Seattle, and you're thinking, oh, this looks like, I know it's like a holiday movie. It looks, the poster's got Steve Martin in a Santa hat. Oh yeah, it looks great. And really, it's just a very strange movie of a lot of goofy sketches, I would say, that kind of vary in terms of realism at times, or even comedy. There's sometimes dark, sometimes very slapstick, like the farcical elements of it, which it's based on that. I'm sure you know this, based on a French farce. Yeah, so that stuff gets really slapsticky at times, and almost when it doesn't, almost to the point where it doesn't make sense. There's one shot where Steve Martin just sits down in a chair and falls, and you're like, why did he fall? Like it doesn't, it doesn't make. Yeah, they're reaching for anything like that they can find, but it's not really consistent because it's dark and then very, like I said, slapsticky in different and almost in equal measure, back and forth constantly. The tone is always a little weird. You're never quite sure where you stand with this movie. But I think the reason why, I mean, the cast is very good, but I think also it's not a very winning Steve Martin role or performance. I think that doesn't help either.
Yeah, his character is, he's not necessarily like unsavory or bad, but he's not particularly likable.
No.
And there is this like, love story that, I don't know, festering is maybe too negative of a connotation there, but it is like Rita Wilson is like pining for him. She's his assistant. She really like idolizes him. And from what we see as the audience, it's hard to understand why. Like she seems capable, sweet, pretty, caring, all these things. It's like, why does she like this guy? He doesn't seem to like really care about his employees, and he's just like manic and a little bit strange. So sort of like in contrast to a lot of other holiday love stories, this is one where I didn't feel myself necessarily like pulling for them to have that success, where in basically every other setup, it's like either guy is crushing on girl and like waiting for her to figure it out, or vice versa. And then eventually they come together in the end and everything's happy. But you're typically like cheering for that in those other situations. And in this, I was just like, I was like, she could probably do better.
Yeah. It doesn't help that he seems to be bad at, well, okay, he's good on the phone. That's the one thing they tell you in the movie. He can do it on the phone, but he's bad in person, not particularly great at his job, not very capable. And they tell him so. People say that to his face, like throughout the movie. People are like, you are a piece of crap. And yeah, I guess I'm thinking about, she does walk in that one part where he's on the phone saying the pothole. There's, what is it? Hope in every pothole, that whole thing. Maybe she's charmed by that side of him, the way he is good on the phone like that. And maybe she does find that sweet and endearing. But I also agree, it's kind of a leap to see why well, I guess the movie's trying to set up that she's been pining forever. So they worked together for like 6 years, it says. I do find myself rooting for them though, in a weird way. I'm kind of like, just because the way the movie just tells me this is the main character and this is what I'm supposed to care about. You think in most movies, Rita Wilson would be the main character, you think.
Yeah.
We would follow her. And she's great in this, by the way. I think this might be the best Rita Wilson role ever, in my opinion. She's so good. And then I feel like after this, she just kind of gets misused and like just shows up in supporting parts and just here and there. But this is like a really great performance by her, I think, in this movie. She's very winning, very kind of sad. And then she does the comedy stuff well, because occasionally she has to jump into the slapstick. Everybody gets their turn in the slapstick barrel in this movie.
Yeah.
At some point, everybody's got to fall down or trip or crazy. But I do find myself rooting for them, mainly because of her. I want her to be happy.
Yes, exactly. Like I feel I'm like, she can do better than this guy that she's been pining after. And if he lives up to the person that she believes him to be, then they can have a happy ending, and like we'll get the Christmas finish to the movie that we all want. And it kind of gets there, but I think it's supported a lot by all of the other characters like getting their own moment as well. Not just at the end, but throughout the course of the film. Like I feel like there's other relationships that I care about as well, and maybe even more than the primary relationship. And like a character like Miss Munchik, who sort of starts off as like she's a little prissy and she kind of like looks down on them, and she gets re-gifted her own gift though, so that lets you know who Philip is as a character. So like you said, it's not a particularly like winning Steve Martin performance in that it's not as charming as many of his other performances, many of his other characters. So it's starting you from a difficult place, and not just like figuratively either. Like literally, this movie starts in Venice Beach. I mean, the whole movie takes place in Venice Beach, but you're like out on the beach boardwalk to start the film. And it's like the sun is shining, the beach, the ocean. It doesn't have the sort of Christmassy vibes of the snow and sort of like being in the Northeast and all that. And so it starts as a much different Christmas movie than pretty much every other Christmas movie, including Christmas movies of that year as well, that sort of fit a particular type of mold that want to get you in the mood a certain way. And it's a hard place to start from, but I respect the kind of dedication it takes to make something like this a reality, because like you said, it was adapted from a French film, but at the same time I'm watching this and it almost felt like I'm watching sort of a stage play, because the pacing of everything is very fast. Like the dialogue is very fast. The dialogue immediately goes into the phone ringing. The phone ringing immediately goes into like a slapstick gag that leads into like a new character busting through the door. And so it's like it's paced like that almost the entire time. So you don't even really have the kind of space to breathe with some of the heavier topics that they're grappling with that are like legitimate thematic topics, especially around the holiday season when you're dealing with a story about a suicide prevention hotline, basically, that's about to go out of business. Like there is some like real texture and depth there, but like you said, the tone is kind of, I don't know if it's unwilling or it was just not quite well formed enough to sort of point us in that direction. Cause then we're really getting away from like what's going to make an enjoyable Christmas movie for people, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that I would say Christmas trees and the soundtrack do all the heavy lifting and making you feel like it's Christmas. There's a lot of Christmas tree elements. It comes into the plot several times. Parker Posey and Jon Stewart, unrecognizable Jon Stewart,
right?
Because they've got the rollerblading helmets on. They show up from time and time again, getting their tree ruined. Christmas trees there, and then like the music is all like familiar. Well, it's like any Nora Ephron movie. You got to have a Carly Simon song on there. She's always going to have a Carly Simon one, which ends this movie. But the rest of it's just all Christmas music, like the standard hits that you know. And I feel like that really does a lot of the heavy lifting with it. But I agree with what you're saying. Like there are suicide jokes aplenty in this movie.
Yeah.
Like I mean, that's the darker side. And some of them are funny. The Stephen Wright joke where he's in the phone booth. She's like, click it. That is funny. And the way they play it is funny because they're just staring at the phone. Like he'll call back and they just both like take a beat and just stare. I don't know. I think they play that really well, but it is kind of touchy material.
Yeah.
And then it's like counteracted with the worst part of it, I think, sort of is everything involving Felix. And he's going to the vet. He starts barking for some reason after he takes the medicine. You know, that kind of stuff is there's a specific stretch of this movie, I think, that starts about when they take him to the vet, or when he and Juliette Lewis come into the apartment and all the stuff happens where she ends up hitting him in the head. From that scene until Liev Schreiber comes in, I'm just like out of the movie. I'm like, I don't like this. This is annoying. I don't care about this. As soon as he comes in, Liev Schreiber, his character comes to the apartment. I feel like that to the end, the movie is like soaring. Like I feel like it just takes off and doesn't even look back. It is like a play where everybody's moving. It's like noise is off. Everybody's constantly moving fast, coming in and out of the apartment. And I feel like everybody, for the most part, is really in sync with each other. I feel like they're all doing a good job, sort of tap dancing with each other. But then the only thing that kind of gets in the way is, it's not his fault, but the way Steve Martin's character is, he's just kind of gawking at everybody like, what's going on? What are all these, like, there are so many reaction shots of Steve Martin looking crazy. Like, what's happening? I mean, they go to that well over and over and over again. And I don't think it's his fault, really. I mean, I think it would be a tough part for anyone to play. But my one theory I have about his hair, I'm not
Thank
sure
God
why
you brought it up.
yeah, I'm not sure why they dyed his hair brown. My only guess is maybe at some points he didn't want to be associated so much with this guy, and he was like, "Can I just look a little bit different?" But I think they realized that it looks weird because in the movie poster he's wearing a Santa hat, which he never has at any point in the movie. I think they were trying to cover up the brown hair or the poster. That's my theory about the hat and the hair.
It's also not just dyed, like, it's styled, like, with, like, feathered bangs. It's very weird, and several times it looks like his makeup is maybe a little heavier too than I had seen in some other roles, and especially when he's sort of, like, in the elevator shaft, I'm like, "This is a really weird look for him." Like,
Yeah,
He's Steve Martin. You know what you're getting when you cast him. So, maybe you don't want him to sort of present as a guy that's, like, maybe in his 50s, and you want someone that, like, seems like they're in their early 40s, or, someone that was capable of starting a business, having served in, I think they said, like, the Peace Corps, like, elsewhere in the world. So,
yeah,
he's got a big enough, like, character background, but maybe in order to, like, make him desirable for Rita Wilson's character, he had to have those bangs. Uh
yeah. I forgot about the Peace Corps line. That really seems to not fit with the character that they mentioned that he did that in the past. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, it's kind of so okay. I we may talk about it later. I'm not sure, but so my boys, Siskel and Ebert, they
Mhm.
gave a very like 2 minute fast cursory damning review of this movie. They didn't like it, but Ebert says, "Why would you have Madeline Kahn be in the movie and spend the whole movie stuck in an elevator screaming?" And I don't like that because she does that for about 15 minutes. The
Yeah.
rest of the movie, she's out, she's interacting with people, she's doing funny shit the whole movie. I'm like, I just that line gets on my nerves that he said that because I'm like, she has a lot more. And by the way, she's very funny in the elevator. Everything she does in the elevator makes me laugh. The rapping, the everything. So I think she's one of the MVPs of the movie, and they seem to think she was wasted. And I was like, I
Mm.
just don't agree with that. She is like irrationally angry the whole movie. You're not quite sure why she's so angry. Well, I would say Juliette Lewis is the most irrationally angry in the movie. Maybe not irrational, just very, very angry. And Madeline Kahn's like one step below. But yeah, they're intense. They're mad pretty much from the word jump to the end.
Yeah, and, this is not a Christmas movie that I grew up with. This is a Christmas movie I didn't even know about until, like, 3 years ago when I was working on a project for the website, and I was like, "Look, I wanna find more of these Christmas movies that are, like, the antithesis of what the average Christmas movie is," and I came across this one, and I was like, "Oh my god, how did I not know about this?" Like, the cast is amazing, like, Nora Ephron, of course, like, and directed. You have all these, like, fantastic cameos, like, you've got young talent in place that would go on to blow up, like Adam Sandler,
Hmm.
and to see it a second time, fairly, it wasn't that long ago when I watched it, but to see it now, I think one of the things I cheered for the most actually was Madeline Kahn's character. And
Mhm.
it's like, sure, she's stuck in the elevator, and it's kind of like a gag at that point where it's, oh, she's stuck, she's just making noise. You can hear her clearly throughout all of the other scenes
Yeah.
asking for help while they sort of just ignore that point. But then once she's out of the elevator and things are fixed, like her character just being able to like sort of go through the whole Night Strangler thing, which yes, there's a serial killer like in the background of this movie as well that is just kind of like glossed over for the majority of the runtime. Like so, all of like the really dark elements like that are sort of buried beneath the surface of all of these very eccentric characters, these very particular character choices, the pacing, the background score that sort of makes this feel like an upbeat kind of comedy. But I think the thing that I took away from it this time that I love the most is that even though it is strange, I don't feel that it's like super inaccurate. Like the older I've gotten, the more I've realized that like Christmas is not the same for everybody. There's a lot of people in the world that don't celebrate. There's a lot of people who the holidays are really, really tough on. And I think what we see in this movie that is it's explicit, but it's not expressed so much is that like this is a family that they're building, right? Like so many Christmas movies are about family and about family values and being together on the holidays. And in the scene where we first sort of get Lee Schreiber on the way to join the rest of the cast at the apartment location or whatever, the office, you see that this is a person who has said, like, I'm very alone. I feel alone today. I don't want to be alone. And that's the whole catalyst for Lee going to the office. And then when he steps out of the room, you see that, like, the entire family, there's like 15 people. They're celebrating Christmas, Christmas sweaters, having fun. And it's like he's just the odd duck in that situation, or she is just the odd duck in this situation. And the family does not respect this person's choices and doesn't respect their life as an individual. So they're just like, no, we're going to give you a hard time. But it is a very, very like noticeable moment that sets the tone of like, look, this is the family Christmas that you see all the time. This is on the Hallmark Channel. This is on Christmas cards. This is the picturesque family holiday. But for that one person in the family, that's not the case. And so I really like that this movie sort of takes all of those individual characters and then gives them their own Christmas that works for them in a way that isn't the same as it is for everybody else.
Yeah, I agree. Weirdly enough, sort of what you're talking about is they actually do some serious moments pretty well in the movie, like the speech toward the end where Steve Martin talks about Christmas puts your life under a magnifying glass and it makes the things that are worse seem a lot worse and makes you sadder than you would be. And like the stuff with Rita Wilson when she's with Julia Lewis and they're making the Christmas wish, like some of those moments are actually handled well in the movie. They don't come off as like really phony or anything. They're kind of sincere and they feel sweet to the point where it kind of makes you feel like Nora Ephron, even though she's writing this crazy with her sister, writing this crazy, these situations, she does care about these characters, you feel like.
Yeah.
And I think Liev Schreiber, is it Liev Schreiber?
Yeah.
I think he might be the best performance in the movie.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty incredible what he manages to do for it was his first movie too.
Mm-hmm.
So so if you're talking about a movie from 1994 and you're like, there's going to be a transgender character in the movie, you think it's going to be horribly handled.
Yeah.
Like unbelievably bad. Like this is 30 years ago we're talking about. I think this movie does a pretty good job of handling that situation. I don't think it's outwardly offensive about it. I will say, I know the Arnold scene with the family is mean,
yes,
but it cracks me up a little bit. I can't help it. It's because they stopped playing 12 Days of Christmas to play Arnold. And then as soon as she walks out, they start playing 12 Days of Christmas again. It's so mean that something about that is kind of. And then the movie calls back when she walks by the movie store and there's pictures of Arnold in Terminator 2. Did you notice that?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. But yeah, that character, specifically the way Adam Sandler's character relates to her, is kind of sweet and well handled too. I was surprised. I was bracing myself for something more hateful almost, or like not hateful, but just ignorance. And I feel like the movie does a pretty good job with it, especially for the time.
Yeah, if you were to, on paper, just tell somebody, hey, there's a 1994 Christmas movie with like a trans character and it's a comedy and it's sort of a often weird and plucky comedy, like you would expect that is not going to be handled too adeptly. And I don't know that any other movies that I can think of off the top of my head from that early 90s era really were inclusive of a character like that to begin with, or handled it very well beyond that. So I agree with you 100% that this was, about as good of representation as we could have expected from a movie from this era, because like you said, aside from the mean-spirited nature of the family situation, which does reinforce the need for this character to leave that setting and to confirm for us as the audience that this feeling of loneliness is coming from somewhere. This isn't just like this throwaway thing. Like, you got the creepy guy calling. He's like, I want to wish a woman Merry Christmas. And then he starts like jerking off on the phone or whatever he's doing. So you've got like the creepy callers, and then you have like a real person with real feelings on the other end of that phone. And like you said, when you bring in a character like Adam Sandler's character, who is slightly infantile in his presentation, he's very
Well said.
goofy. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's doing the Adam Sandler thing with the goofy voice, and we do get a good Adam Sandler song out of it, though.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, to put those two characters together and to not only like expect it to function well, but to write it with heart and with care, and to treat both sides of that equation with enough respect for those two characters in the eyes of the audience, to like actually line up in a position where it's like, this makes sense and it handles this with care and affection, rather than making it the kind of like sideshow that probably a lot of other movies of that era would have done with those two characters.
Yeah. I would say the closest this movie comes is, again, too many reaction shots of Steve Martin being weirded out during the dance sequence. But the dance sequence is great because of how they end up getting so into it as it goes on. It gets funnier and funnier. He said he won like the 1968 Mambo contest or something. But yeah, they get really into it. But they're yeah, at the beginning of that scene, there's just a lot of setup where we're like, okay, we get it. Steve Martin is weirded out, blah blah blah. And then eventually it settles into they just become, Liev Schreiber just becomes the character, and they're just relating to the character after that, not so much anything about the way they look or whatever. Um, just becomes one of the gang kind of. And yeah, Adam Sandler is interesting because this is the year before Billy Madison's. This is like peak SNL Sandler. I mean, he's basically doing Opera Man in this movie. He's just singing all these songs on the ukulele, and they're all funny songs. I mean, I think they're all good. Like everything that he does in this movie, I think is pretty good. But infantile is a good way to put it. He seems very much like a child, and very confused about the way the world works. And he writes T-shirts,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Yeah, but it is weird to see, and he looks like 7 years old. He looks so young in this movie.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you look at him, like, oh my gosh.
And like even his character introduction, like you had mentioned, sort of the phone call where they're trying to talk this guy out of killing himself, and we see that he's got the gun in the phone booth with him, and then it is, told to us in not such uncertain terms that he kills himself. And yeah, and then they look at the phone and they're like, okay, he'll call back like everybody else does. And then like that quiet realization that what happened probably happened. And then they cut straight from that to like they go into the hallway, and Adam Sandler's out there with his like ukulele, and it's like he's changing the tone very quickly. So it doesn't like simmer in the darkest, saddest elements of it too long before getting back on track with like, no, this is the kind of like quirky comedy that we want to present you with, but we also want to acknowledge that like all of these other things are also real on Christmas. It's not just rainbows and love stories and puppies, and it's not just that. So I think it was actually handled pretty well, considering. I mean, I get why if you're looking for a Christmas movie and you come across this and you're like, hey, this is a great cast and Nora Ephron's, okay, I'll throw this on. And then you watch it, be like, this ruined my Christmas. I could totally understand that, but I don't think that is the same thing as this being a bad movie.
Yeah. Well, I also think I don't think that audiences are necessarily opposed to like a prickly or thorny Christmas movie. I mean, I was thinking about how The Family Stone has become sort of a hit, always on TV on Christmas, and that movie's got several very dark things going on in it. Darker than what's in this movie, I would say, because I feel like even the suicide angle in this movie is not really taken seriously in a dramatic way. It's more like seen as a concept, I guess, and then like a punchline almost. But in that movie, there's a lot of really dark stuff happening with illness and everything. And people love that movie. They eat it up, they watch it. So I wouldn't think people are turned off by the dark elements, but I think maybe it is the whiplash of back and forth. Yeah. It throws people off because you can't really pin this movie down no matter how much you try. Like you try to figure it out, and then something will happen in the next scene that's usually not even in the realm of realism at all. That you're just like, oh, okay, well, now they're at the vet and Felix is taking animal tranquilizers and he's barking. I mean, that's a crazy thing to write in a screenplay, but they did it.
Yeah, and even that moment in the film is preceded by like an act of domestic violence, essentially, right? I mean, not that a cookie tin would give him that level of concussion or even like bloody his nose at all, but the implication is that she hits him in the head and now he's bleeding severely and they have to take him to the only doctor that they can take him to, which happens to be Rob Reiner's like extra quirky doctor who is like complaining about his own love life to Philip, and Philip is like, yeah, I don't even have an answer for you because I'm just here to fix this so I can get back to fixing this other thing. So I get why that whole middle of the movie is just like, I think they felt the need that they had to get out of the office, right? Because like
Mhm.
everything is just taking place in the office. Like we have to give them some reason to like go outside and
Yeah.
we're in Venice Beach. Like we got to do something other than just hang out in this one room the whole time. But I think you agree that like when they're all together in that room is actually when it's the best, or at least when they're in the building, because then it's like you meet the neighbors, you have the elevator incident. So it's like there's all these little particular quirks of the building, the Gary Shandling landlord who looks like
Yeah.
he's, retired in Florida and all white. So you've got all these very particular choices with the setting that I think reflects like who these characters are. And it's like only certain types of characters will live in this quirky building kind of thing. And I think all that comes together in a way that really like benefits the film when everybody's together more so than it does when they sort of take their own individual paths.
Yeah. I I think it's funny, just a small like character thing that I think is funny is when you have Gary Shandling's character, the landlord, Stanley Tannenbaum, that's
Hmm.
his name. When you have him talking to Philip or Steve Martin's character about the eviction, he's just walking around slowly on like turning the lights down. Like there's little light bulbs, and when he's just untwisting them to save money on electricity. He turns off the exit sign. It's just a funny touch that a guy who is clearly this like this and kind of sleazy is just trying to save a penny everywhere he can by turning off. Yeah, that was just something funny that I don't know if it's in the script, but it's Shanling's was so good at that kind of stuff that you're almost like, I wonder if he just improv that. Like, I'm just gonna be my like saving little money here and there while I'm having this conversation about your eviction.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a sleazy landlord, like
Yeah.
when we first meet him, and then he's doing all these little things that basically would be like, well, you're you're encouraging your tenants to like want to get out of there, right? So like the stuff with the light bulb, it's like, okay, well, let's like unscrew that one, not fix the elevator. All of
Yeah.
those kinds of things start to add up over time. And dealing with landlords in my regular work, like good ones are great, bad ones are really bad. So I was just like, oh wow, it's like they actually like nailed sort of the persona of the landlord that is arrogant but also just like doesn't care.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's a very particular like needle to thread, but they did a really good job with that.
Yeah,
Uh
he doesn't even want to come. They call him about her being stuck in the elevator. He's like, I can't. They're like, she can't spend Christmas in an elevator. He's like, all right, I'll be there in a few hours.
right.
Like he's not concerned at all about any of it. Yeah.
Unfortunately. But this is not a movie that like I was aware of at the time. So I want to go back and check out the trailer because
Oh
that'll give us a
yes.
little insight into what this movie was sort of marketed as, especially like in that Ephron 90s era.
Oh yeah, they're gonna bring up Sleepless in Seattle so many times in this trailer. Get ready.
Let's see. All right. Well, if we were
I've not
doing it,
seen it, but I would imagine they would.
if we were doing a drinking game and we had to drink for every time they advertised from the maker of Sleepless in Seattle, we would probably be wasted by the time we got back from this. Before we get to the trailer, I usually take a little time to have fun with products from another world. But I'm going to do things a little bit differently for this episode. Because, well, movies and TV usually portray Christmas time as this wonderful moment for family, friends, generosity, and happiness. That's not the case for everybody. The holiday season is one of the most depressing and stressful times of the year for a lot of people, whether that be financial stress, loneliness, too much pressure from unrealistic expectations, or just sheer exhaustion. So make sure to take account of your own mental health, check in on your loved ones, and find healthy ways to manage your stress during the holidays. And now, back to the show. Okay, let's rock and roll.
Hello, this is Lifesavers. Merry Christmas. How may I help you?
I have only 2 months to live.
I'm so sorry, sir. Everyone at Lifesavers is with you.
May I speak to a woman?
Hello, Merry Christmas, if it's all right to say that.
What's your name?
Catherine?
I want to ravish you like a wild animal.
Now stop it right this minute.
Edited.
That sort of thing.
Philip's job is solving other people's problems.
May I put you on hold while I run to my desk? You're not calling from a bridge or holding a weapon?
No.
Good.
But unfortunately, he's got
For a
problems
suicide
of his own.
hotline, they're pretty
I don't know how to
flippant
say
about
this.
like the risk of
My psychiatrist
suicide.
thinks we should
Yeah.
break up.
I didn't know you were going to a psychiatrist.
Well, I'm not actually going to one. I've been dating one for 4 months.
And now
That's
it's
so
Christmas.
savage.
Can we show a little Christmas spirit around here?
Somebody's not in the holiday mood, I guess.
A time when the lonely
If you think your husband is having an affair, he is.
feel most alone.
Static again. Hello, hello?
I can't hear you.
Try clicking the little button. I'm having a problem hearing you.
Look, I'm at the end of my rope, and I want to die.
Click it, please. Go ahead.
Yikes.
I'm very lonely tonight. Is there any chance I could stop by and talk?
Well, if you were willing to make a small donation, say perhaps $5,000. I'm kidding. I came right over.
Do you have music?
I'm not like
physical
you, Philip.
comedy
I'm
is
not one of
good,
those
though.
people who's only
Yeah.
good on the phone.
In my line of work, I deal with all kinds of people. None of them are what you
Ugh.
might call conventional. Dancing with you makes me feel all fluffy.
Philip?
TriStar Pictures presents
I wish there were someone I cared for who cared for me.
Are you a professional ukulele player?
Oh, no, I'm a writer.
What do you write?
T-shirts.
Steve Martin,
My heart is racing, and I'm feeling all nervous and sick.
That's the way I felt since the day I met you.
I wrote Save the Dolphins.
in the new comedy from the director of Sleepless in Seattle,
On this one.
So naturally,
I had to comfort her.
Mixed Nuts.
Hello, Lifesavers. May I help you? May I speak to a woman?
You are speaking to a woman.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. That they don't try to hide what the movie is too much in that. They show you what you're gonna get, kind of.
Yeah, like that's
I feel like-
actually a little surprising. I would not have put the suicide in there if I were cutting the trailer, but
That is
I
a risk,
understand, yeah. I don't know how this movie like actually performed, but it was like one of many Christmas movies that came out in December. So
Yeah,
like it had some competition. And again, if this was like at the end of the road and you'd already seen the other ones, do you go in on that trailer alone? And maybe not.
yeah. I remember that at the I do remember that at the end of the year that there were a ton of Christmas movies that came out. Like this was opening against, let's see, Little Women, Richie Rich,
Oh wow.
yeah, Dumb and Dumber,
A lot of accessible stuff.
yeah, Legends of the Fall was opening, right? Like all this stuff is the Jungle Book, the one from the night. Yeah, all this stuff is coming out right at the same time. There's again, we talked about this last time, but it's just crazy how many movies they used to release in one weekend. I mean, every weekend would be stacked full of like classics,
Yeah.
but nobody else is going to call Mixed Nuts classic, but I will. But yeah, and it did. Let's see. Oh, its final gross was 6.6 million, so it just disappeared. I doubt it played longer than 2 weeks. It was there, it was gone. Maybe it wasn't even heavily promoted. Like there's that trailer, but I don't even know if they advertised much on TV or anything like that. Like it feels like something people just forgot about completely. And you said you didn't even know about it until a couple years ago. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Because it seems more like a Christmas movie that comes out at a different time of the year, where like
Yeah.
it is Christmas and Christmas is happening, but Christmas is not the focus, and it's not necessarily about like, oh, the holiday spirit and sort of the mythology that goes with Christmas. Like this is about these characters in this moment. So it's like a summer Christmas movie almost. But what was the release weekend?
This came out December 21st,
Oh, okay,
1994.
Yeah, you don't give it much room to breathe there either, like right before the actual holiday either. And there's a lot of heavy hitters that weekend too. So if you put this
Yeah.
at like Thanksgiving or you let it have that month up until Christmas, maybe it does a little bit better than trying to like shoehorn it in the last like 10 days of the
Yeah.
year. Because
That
once
is
January rolls
oh,
around, like, is anybody going to watch that?
yeah, and that is true. Like you find nowadays, most Christmas movies come out in around Thanksgiving. You're right, because they want to give you more time. Like after Christmas, people aren't going to be in the mood to watch a Christmas movie. Usually, they're kind of washing their hands of it. So you're right. Yeah, they usually give you that whole run up, like lead up time, where you can build an audience. And like the Holdovers this year has had plenty of time. Like it's a Christmas movie, but it's had a lot of several weeks to build up an audience and stuff like that. But I was gonna say one thing about the trailer was you mentioned that the physical comedy is good, and I that's one thing about the dance sequence that's really good is you finally in the movie I feel like get to see Steve Martin do the Steve Martin physical comedy you're used to, and it's great as always. But I feel like he feels so restrained the whole movie, and then in that scene he's actually kind of able to let loose, and it's sort of like the equivalent of Robin Williams doing impressions. Every movie with Steve Martin's got to have one little segment where he does some physical or dancing or something like that. But yeah, it's really funny. He's very adept at that sort of thing.
I think it's also symbolic in that moment too, though, because like you said, he is very sort of reserved, very restrained throughout the majority of the film. And in that moment where he is still like kind of rigid, as they start dancing, like it loosens him up and he starts to feel like more normal, more like himself, like less like he has to be in control. And like he's grappling with sort of like being the B side of that dancing duo. And sort of like I don't know if it's necessarily like emasculating, but he does get tossed across the room at one point, which sort of sets him off. And it's from that moment forward though that like things start to get better for everybody, like him included. So it's interesting that like that particular moment with that character who like he was very hesitant about allowing to come to the office in the first place because it's like, hey, you never know who's on the other end of that phone line. So having them like dance together in that way, I think actually like opens a door for the rest of the film and Steve Martin's character development in particular.
One thing I think is interesting is during the scene leading up to the dance, she's on the couch. He's lighting candles in case the power goes out. Yeah, why is the power keep going out? But anyway, he's lighting candles
landlord.
Yeah, he just didn't do something right. There's a short, but he's lighting candles in case the power goes out. And she's talking, and he doesn't seem interested in what she's saying, and she's like, "I'm boring you, aren't I? I bore everyone." All this kind of stuff, negative self-talk. And then he's trying to get her to leave. He holds up her cape, but he actually says what he says to her is actually good advice. It's like he has been listening to her. It just didn't seem like he was. He's like tells a story about the Mambo contest and how ever since he entered it and won, he doesn't care about what people think about him, and she shouldn't care. It's interesting advice. I feel like it's not a throwaway line. It feels like that actually is advice. And having said that, I feel like once they start dancing, it's almost like the more Steve Martin's character starts to see, I think it's Chris is the name of Liv Schreiber.
Yeah.
As a person, it becomes more comfortable. Like, yeah, they start to have a connection that's more than just surface stuff. It's like they're actually connecting on a real way. And he seems to almost start to care about her by the end of it. And then the funny part is once the scene gets interrupted and they're doing other stuff, you just see her dancing around in the background, like behind the scenes, just throwing stuff and just dancing around. It's just funny how they had that going in the background.
Yeah, because I think Miss Munchik wakes up from her own concussion, right?
Yeah, everybody gets concussed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Falls and hits her head, and she's been laid down like behind the couch. So she sort of like pops up and like surprises them. And in that moment, it's like his guard was down. He was just enjoying the dancing element of it. And he's like, "Oh, we're busted!" Like, and it sort of like sets him back into his old patterns a little bit. But I like that it doesn't affect Chris being there in that moment and like still enjoying it and then continuing to be a part of the story from that point forward.
Yeah. I think it's funny how there's just like little things like Juliette Lewis changing everyone's outfits for some reason. It's funny to me. Have the clothes to like dress everyone up, including Adam Sandler's character. They're all wearing different clothes. But like you said, yeah, there are 3 different characters, but I may be low by one. They get hit in the head with a door or something, like they get like their nose broken, or they hit, or it's just funny how many times the bonks on the head happen in this movie. It's a big part of it.
Yeah, 2 people are like flat out concussed, and then I think Steve and Rita both like hit their head on the doorway out the door.
Oh, they walk into the door.
They,
Yeah,
they take that physical one to the face. So there
Chris
is
does it too. Sorry,
does he? Oh,
at one point, like turns around and is like face to face with the glass wall or whatever. Yeah, when she's trying to storm off after she comes back to get her cape.
That's right.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It is, and it's a weird choice. I mean, I guess it works when it's like you need some sort of reason for the cast to be trimmed down a little bit without like killing off any of the main characters. So it's like, all right, well, this person has head trauma, they're going to take a nap. Like this person has head trauma, they're going to go get dog medicine at the vet for some reason from some veterinarian who's just like, I think the only thing I like about that scene is that you get like Rob Reiner's vet, you get Steve Martin, and what is Felix.
Yeah.
So you get the 3 of them, and like none of them really like understand the women in their lives, yet they're all complaining about like this mundane garbage that doesn't really apply to their relationships. It's like this complaints about the pillows, right? And I think in that moment, like you really have the 3 guys isolated and alone for the first time. And it's like, this is the kind of like dumb shit that they're talking about in terms of like what applies to their relationships. Meanwhile, like Steve Martin can't tell that like his secretary has been clearly in love with him for all this time. Like Felix and Gracie have sort of gone in different directions for like what they ideally want. Although Felix is trying to be there and trying to be like involved in the kid's upcoming life. But it was an interesting aside when so many of the main characters are female and it's written by a woman. So I like that it takes that tone, because when Chris first makes his way to the office, or her way to the office, I should say, and Miss Munchak is on the other side of the door, there is this thing of like Miss Munchak is alone, she's proper, like she feels older. There's a line that she says where she's like, "Oh, I was never young." But I mean, what is she, maybe 40 like at the time that they're making this movie? Like maybe early 40s. Like she looks good though.
They treat her like she's an old lady, but yeah,
right?
She looks like she's in her 40s. Yeah, exactly.
And like, so like she's good looking. She dresses well. She's actually like good at what she does. She's thoughtful enough to provide a present to her employer who isn't thoughtful enough to then actually shop for something for her. And then there is this like internal thing of like, oh, I'm old and I'm just kind of like this old bitch character. But at the same time, like, I'm still desirable, and the Seaside Strangler would want to come in here and strangle me. And like, there's this like cat and mouse of like, ooh, should I open the door for this stranger and like see if I get swept away in this, or just like, do I keep playing into this character that everybody's sort of like pigeonholed me into? And so in watching it this time, I love that like she just got to like have her moment, and like the guy that she hated with the dogs and they were like yelling at each other, like that turned into this romance that like paid off for her in a great way. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet actually, that she seized the opportunity, because I think she kisses him when she catches him outside with the dogs. And so I was like, I'm glad that like she saw her moment and she took it. Like that's a nice way to like have this character arc turn out.
She kisses him and then orders him to take her to the beach so they can get down.
Yeah, Munchak got it.
It is funny though, like she is, when you said she's good at her job, I like that part, or that line where she takes the phone away from Juliette Lewis. It's the obscene caller again, and she just like expertly diffuses him, like cuts him off at the knees, and he has nothing to say. And she's like, "I am so good at this, and soon I will have no outlet for my talent," because of the addiction, the whole addiction thing. Which like, but yeah, that is funny when she's at the door trying to like talk to the Seaside Strangler, and Juliette Lewis goes, "Okay, you're having a fantasy. He doesn't. This is not what you think it is. Like, what would he want with you?" She didn't even say it's not him. She just goes, "What would he want with you?" But yeah, you're right. They do treat her like an old lady, and it's like she doesn't seem that much older than anybody else in this movie. I mean, 10 years maybe. 10 years
Yeah.
older than Rita Wilson, maybe. It's like, yeah.
If that at the time of this.
Yeah.
I mean, but she reminds me a lot of like almost like a black and white era classic film character where in another timeline, Madeline Kahn is the lead in this movie, right? Where it's like this is her Christmas story. So, like we said a little bit earlier, I'm glad that like each of these characters got to have their own Christmas story to a certain degree, where it isn't just, hey, this is the cookie cutter like Christmas, dunk, different cast, just mass produced every year to be a cash grab. So,
yeah,
she turned out to be a character that I liked a lot more the second time, and I had a very different experience with it the second time. But I liked it both times still. It wasn't like, oh, I hated it the first time, liked it the second time, or vice versa. It was like I didn't know what I was getting into the first time. And so I was like impressed with the cast and sort of like the super irreverent tone that it took with everything. And then this time I really got to appreciate a lot of the depth that, albeit doesn't have a ton of room to breathe or doesn't continue to go too deep, but there is a big cast. You can't really like do that for everybody. But yeah, I was impressed by like how much substance there was beneath the surface of what I enjoyed from it the first time, and how much I actually like stopped and thought like, oh wow, like this is way smarter than you might look at it on the surface, because it is a slapstick ensemble kind of comedy, and you don't have to take away some of the smarter elements from it to enjoy it. But I really appreciated doing that this time around and sort of just sitting in those moments. And the movie doesn't let me sit in them too long, but the themes of like loneliness, like actual suicide, like being on the verge of like financial ruin, like what it means to have family, what it means to be dealing with an impending pregnancy when like you don't have the money to deal with it. You have Felix telling Gracie like, hey, if we just sign this attestation saying that we are that we have no money and that we never will have any money, we'll be able to have the baby in a hospital. Like, to think of like these kinds of things, like these are very real things that don't stop being real just because it's Christmas. And I think that's actually where this movie finds its largest success, is in telling those little small stories that are like real everyday struggles that don't stop for the holidays.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of torn because I know what you're saying, and I sort of agree with that. At the same time, I feel like the Juliette Lewis, Anthony LaPaglia story, the Felix and Gracie, that's like the worst. That's like the worst part of it to me. I feel like it's just all pitched at one very high level, kind of obnoxious.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they're doing a good job playing their parts, but I think the parts just aren't written super well. Like Juliette Lewis, I think I read she made this right after Natural Born Killers. Like, so that's wild to think she went from that to this, Like, she's a good actress because there's nothing else she does that's really like this. Anthony LaPaglia played we talked about this on Empire Records, I think, but he played this guy, this New York tough talking guy, all throughout the 90s. The Client, Empire Records, this, to the point that when I first saw that he was Australian years later, I was just like shocked. I couldn't believe it. I was like, he's not the guy from New York. I don't know what to make about it. But yeah, I will say this at the beginning. Speaking of the high tone and or the way it's pitched, when the first scene of this movie comes on, so TriStar logo comes up. I love it. I'm always in there for the TriStar logo, the best, the old fashioned one. The credits roll. Credits kind of scrolling across the screen in a funny way. White Christmas was playing. He's riding around Venice Beach. All great. Then the first scene starts where they run into where she is Gracie's chasing Felix out into the street because he ran off in the Santa suit. He runs into Parker Posey and Jon Stewart's tree. They have a giant fight. Steve Martin comes out and tries to defuse it. He gets yelled at. Ends up taking the tree. That whole scene is so kind of irritating and like at such a high frequency that I actually did think when I watched that scene, I thought, oh, maybe I've made a mistake. Like maybe this isn't good. Maybe I screwed up. Maybe I don't like it anymore. Luckily it settles in and I like it, but it's a weird way to start a movie, especially this movie. It's like, yeah, it comes in kind of obnoxious and I'm like, oh no, but there is a great line in it though. And it made me think it was almost like a progressive line for the time. It's when Juliette Lewis later on, when Felix is saying to her, you yelled at a guy in the street, and she went, this random stranger comes up to me on the street and tells me to smile. Just something about her saying that, I was like, that sounds ahead of its time. Like, because then it becomes later on, it's like, you shouldn't go up to people and tell them to, don't go up to women and tell them to smile for you. Like, it's and she's like complaining that that's what this guy did. And I thought that was interesting. I was like, that's kind of cool of her to have had an issue with that.
Yeah, I noticed that too, because it's become a lot more noticeable in projects over the last like handful of years. But clearly it was something that, a woman who had the ability to like make and write the movie like had been struggling with, maybe not struggling with, that's probably the wrong term, but something that she had experienced and was able to pull from, so that by the time we're now 30 years later, like something like that, which maybe didn't even strike people a certain way at the time, actually was a pretty poignant representation of how women are going through life on a regular basis and the expectations put upon them by just random male strangers.
Yeah, there's just some weird choices made with her character, like the way she empties the gun.
Right. No need to do that.
Just wildly shooting around the, like, it's crazy. It's so crazy. And nobody can hear anything in this movie. Like, there are conversations happening in the next room. Like, I think Liv Schreiber's character Chris is screaming for help for somebody to bring her a Band-Aid forever. You can hear it in the background. Like, this is when Steve Martin and Ree Wilson are in the bathroom when she's having sort of like a panic attack. He's trying to calm her down. And then you go back in and find out that Felix and Gracie were just one room over and didn't do anything while she's in here screaming she needs help. It's like, it's interesting the way that the certain characters, and even in the room with the elevator stuff, like at certain points, like, it's when Gracie comes in, maybe it's just her character. It's when she comes in and she's trying to take the elevator up and they're screaming at her, there's someone stuck up here, don't push the elevator, don't go to, and she just keeps doing it. And she like, it's like, there's an empty space above her. Like there's no nothing to catch that sound. It's she's got to hear everything. So, but anyway, nobody can hear anything, especially her character can't hear what other people are saying, even in the room next to her or the same room. And then she decides to empty the gun by just shooting it wildly around the apartment, which is just a crazy choice. I mean, I get they have to do it for the comedy, but I'm just like, good gosh.
I know. I was like, they're very cavalier with the gun violence in this movie. It's like, if anyone is listening, you don't empty the bullets out of a gun by just shooting it randomly around your apartment building. That's not going to end well for anyone. But what you're talking about in terms of, it's not the sound design, but the design of the background dialogue, right? Because as the audience, it's to our benefit to be able to hear it, because it helps us understand the humor in the scene better by like, oh, we can clearly hear this person in the other room. They're calling for help while these other people, for lack of a better word, ignore them. But I think Nora Ephron is a skilled enough filmmaker and aware enough of the stories she's telling that I don't necessarily know that it's played to the point where like the characters can't hear, So I'm curious if it's an intentional decision, because so much of this movie is about like these characters all like having their own individual struggles, right? They're all like so caught up in their own story that whatever's going on around them like just doesn't register at all. And so like I'm stuck between like, is this an intentional choice to like highlight that with all of these characters, because by the end of the film, like they're all on the same page, they're all together, right? To the point where like there's a mural painted at the end of like how fantastic of a Christmas ending this really, really was. But then in those moments, like you said, where there's someone like literally like on the other side of the door and ringing the doorbell, and yet like it's a doorbell. Like, of course you can hear it. It's designed for you to hear it. And it's not like they're playing loud music. It's not like there's anything that's really impeding their ability to hear these sounds. Or like the situation in the elevator where it's like, this is an open stairwell. The sound will travel up in that case as well. So the fact that like she can't hear it is it a thing of like she can't hear it, or she's just in her own zone and unable to hear it?
I didn't think about it that way, but that actually does make sense to me, kind of, because they go through such a length to set up that Adam Sandler, who's already down at the bottom, can't hear Madeline Kahn because he's got headphones in and is singing, making it clear that, voices carry in that building. So that makes sense, actually. If it is, maybe she can hear it, but she can't get out of her own, like she's thinking about her own problems and stuff, or in her own head about it. I'm going to accept that as the explanation, because I'm like driven crazy by the fact that she can't hear them screaming, "You're going to kill us. Stop on 3. You're going to kill us. We're up here dangling." And they're like screaming at the top of their lungs because she's hanging in the air.
And she's getting closer to them as she goes up in the elevator as they're yelling too.
And they think they're going to get squished at the top. Yeah, they have funny, like, there's some, like, that scene has a funny interaction between Rita Wilson and Steve Martin. I think they're funny together, but she's like, "Philip, are you all right?" He's like, "Am I all right? Do I look all right?" And then he tells her that he broke up with Jolie Fisher's character, who is Carrie Fisher's half sister, I'm pretty sure.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think Eddie Fisher was their dad, I'm pretty sure. But I remember her, she was on like Ellen and stuff. I remember, or when Ellen had a sitcom, but she's pretty good. But when he tells her that they broke up, and Rita Wilson gets really excited for a second, and then she's like, "Oh wait, no, they're gonna die." Like the way she does that change from like excitement to like looking at them like, "Oh yeah, you guys are in trouble." They just have funny interactions together. Like I like when so she fires the gun wildly, ends up shooting their landlord who's staying at the door, Gary Shandling. And Rita Wilson goes, "Philip, is this the miracle?" He goes, "The eviction will probably go through regardless, therefore this is not the miracle." Like the way he says that line just cracked me up. Like there's so many good back and forth between them, I feel like, in this movie.
Yeah, but they do eventually get the Christmas miracle, because it turns out that Stanley, the landlord, was also the Seaside Strangler, the serial killer that has been terrorizing Venice Beach. It is stupid. Gary Shandling does not strike me as the serial killer type, but I mean, they needed a Christmas miracle, and like, I don't know, he's got like twine in his bag.
Yeah, they know it's him because of his bag. They're like, "Oh, look, that's got to be it." Yeah.
And they just pat him on the back, like, "You got him. Here's your reward as well."
Thank you for shooting him. Yeah, he's $250,000. I don't like that she hesitates when, like, she just won $250,000. That's the reward.
Yeah, he's like, "Can I get 5,000?"
And then she asks him. She goes, "How much do you need?" It's 5,000. She goes, 5,000. I'm like, come on. I don't know why she hesitates. Like, or I don't know why they made that part of it that she hesitates. I'm like, don't do it. Just be like, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. That also bothered me.
Situation without you.
That bothered me less than her pouring milk into that like cycling bottle and then drinking it and blowing bubbles into the bottle. I'm like, because when I saw her pouring the milk in there, I'm like, so what is this for exactly? And then later she's just like sipping on it. I'm like, oh, she just has like a to-go milk container.
Yeah. She wasn't making a protein shake or anything. She was just sipping on the
I'll just have this lukewarm milk to go. Thank you.
I was gonna say, like, the one thing that was, well, I guess I'm gonna jump ahead to what happens to Stanley's body, unless
that's fine. Go for it.
Okay, so they take the landlord. This is before they know he's the killer. They take the landlord's body, try to cover for Gracie because she accidentally killed him. And they decide to make him a Christmas tree by taking all the branches off their Christmas tree and just sticking them on him. Putting, what did she say? "I wrapped him in those burlap sacks, which are really itchy unless you're dead." But the thing that drove me crazy is they put him in upside down. I cannot figure out why.
His feet stick out the top.
Yeah, why did they make him a tree the opposite way? That was so weird to me. I was like, wouldn't it be better to have like a firmer base with the? I don't know. I thought that was bizarre that they did him upside down.
They panicked. They don't know what they're doing. This is not the first time they ever had to deal with a corpse.
It is funny when they're taking it to the boardwalk. They're singing Christmas carols. Miss Muchnick comes up. She's like, "What are you doing with our tree?" They're like, "It's not our tree." She goes, "Yes, it's our tree." And then they're singing, and she starts singing the most annoying way, like bombastic, loud, off key, everything, like clearly drawing attention to them. And Steve Martin's just rolling his eyes, like, we're supposed to be low key doing this. And then they have a funny callback with the rollerbladers, Parker Posey and Jon Stewart, who are determined to destroy their tree because they've already run to it. There's like, your tree is history. You ruined our Christmas. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I was surprised also when they threw the tree up in the air. I don't think that would knock the branches off. I really don't. Just
Wasn't it like
twirling in the air a couple times.
Yeah.
Super glued. Yeah.
I guess
don't
that
know.
super glue didn't hold that well to the burlap.
No.
Just not enough surface contact.
It just showed his dead hand there, and that's how
Right.
they figured it out. But yeah.
But Munchik comes back after like she got laid on the beach, right? That's why she's like all exuberant and singing in this
The
pronounced
dog's
way.
lover. Yeah,
Mhm.
the dog's lover now.
Exactly. That's great though. I mean, it's like I said, I like that she got to have that moment and that she comes back and she's not this buttoned down, like cold presentation anymore. She's singing and she's filled with joy. She got a dose of the holiday spirit.
And she tries to cover for them.
She does, yeah.
She doesn't even know what happened. Nobody's even told her anything. She's like, he committed suicide. Like, she just assumes everybody's okay and everybody's, doing the right thing. So yeah, I didn't like the line where she was talking shit about Rita Wilson though, because I feel like she knows Rita Wilson's a really nice person. I think she gets on her nerves in the movie when they're together. She's like, she's the most devious person I've ever met. I was like, it just seemed weird to call Rita Wilson's character is so obviously not that type of person.
Yeah.
Even as somebody who didn't like her, I feel like they wouldn't think that. So it was kind of a weird line, I thought. It's building up to the line where she tells, Steve Martin, she wants to rip your clothes off. But I don't know. I just thought that was an odd thing to have her say, like, she's the most devious person I've ever met, Catherine. Like, no, she's really sweet and not bothering anybody.
Devious is a strange choice of words in
I
that
thought so.
situation.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, a lot of
It's
not the only
weirdest
weird
thing
line
in the
uttered in this movie. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on. And then they get very biblical toward the end. They become
do.
like the nativity scene, basically. Well, first Felix climbs the tattoo parlor and is going to shoot himself or jump off. I think shoot himself, but for some reason on the top of a building. And that's the moment that actually becomes somewhat nicer than you would think, because it seems kind of silly and contrived, but Steve Martin does actually say whoever wrote that scene did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's Nora Ephron or Delia Ephron, but they did a good job with kind of underlining the theme, I would say, of the movie, or the theme the movie wants to have, and sort of still having a sweetness to it, or like something that just rings true. It doesn't feel false. I guess that's a part of the character too that you're supposed to feel like he's finally good in person. He's finally speaking correctly. Yeah, he's not messing it up in person. He's actually saying something, and he's speaking from the heart, which is good. Yeah, it's like an opening up for him, I would say.
Yeah, and it's like it's a much, like you said, it's a different character basically than the guy that we've seen throughout the rest of the film. Like it sort of forces him into that position of, I don't know if maturity is the right word, but it's like he steps up, he answers the call when he needs to answer it the most, and they get to have their happy Christmas ending. And this is coming after the Christmas miracle, which I'm going to say is the discovery of Stanley as the serial killer, right? So it's like that's the Christmas miracle, and then everything sort of has to like fall into place and be the happy ending after that. And you get basically a nativity scene sort of towards the end there. She's just given birth to the baby. I think they're out like on the sidewalk, right, when that happens. So
yeah.
And he has to step up in that moment and help give birth to the child as well. So it's like it becomes like it goes from like not being really a Christmas movie to all of a sudden being like a super Christmas movie in a condensed little time frame there at the end, because that's like the last 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah. I just figured something out. You know what Blankman and Mixed Nuts have in common besides
I don't
underappreciated comics from 1994? They both have crazy childbirth scenes.
They do have crazy childbirth scenes
in weird places.
They could have used the speculum of life.
Yeah, Steve Martin should have said, "I'm a father" after he gave birth.
Yeah, both 1994 movies as well. And so you have these
underappreciated.
Yeah, well, a very like particular style of comedy in 1994 that's like quirky. It's like a little different than everything else that was around that time, so it sort of stands out in that way. You get these unlikely heroes, Yeah, they have more in common than maybe we would have thought when we planned this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to think that at that time you were able to have different kinds of comedies like that. Like, as much as I like some of the comedies that come out now, I feel like they're all kind of similar in tone. I don't feel like you get that much of a difference between, like, say, Bottoms or Cocaine Bear, even though I think one's a lot better. Um, they're in the same world, kind of, or the way they talk and the references, in my opinion. But like, I feel like back then comedies were more free to try more things, be more experimental in a way. That's how I feel about these movies. Like, they're not straight down the plate kind of movies. And for some reason, I feel like comedies nowadays, everybody has to have like a certain, is it like a social media type of talk? Like, it's like Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was probably the worst example of what I'm talking about. Not like a bad movie, but like just being, it's everybody's a little bit too self-aware sometimes, a little too self-referential. It's like, yeah, I'm not quite sure. It almost like is like they're making jokes in hashtags. There's just certain, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of refreshing to see. I feel like they swung for the fences a little bit more back in the day. Seems like in some ways.
I think there was more freedom to fail, right? Like, you could take a chance and miss, and it's not the end of your career. It's not the end of the studio. Now it's like, okay, we need to see returns on this comedy if we're going to finance it. And that's why you see a little bit more freedom in something like Bottoms, where like Cocaine Bear didn't get to be like a full-on comedy. It didn't really get to be a full-on horror movie or like a full-on thriller either. It had to sort of hedge its bets to make sure that there was enough of an audience there to guarantee ticket sales. So, I mean, I think the benefit of something now is that at least the stuff that is good will be sort of on, like, not necessarily like the cutting edge of what's funny, but you don't have to rely as much on something where it's like, oh, we hired a comedian as the lead, right? And that's like, okay, now we're going to build the whole movie around like that person's style of stand-up comedy. Where it's like, that was like the Seinfeld model. Like, I mean, that's basically what they did with Beverly Hills Cop, right? You take Eddie Murphy, who's a great stand-up comic, like, you build this around him, you let him be the star. And so now, like, that's a little bit less common. And I don't know if it's because of like just the nature of where stand-up comedy is, or where, marketable movie comedy is. But the one that came out earlier this year, what's his name? Brett Kreischer, right?
Oh yeah.
The Machine.
I forgot what it was called. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it because I watched the trailer like one too many times, and by the third time I was like, I kind of only want to see this for Mark Hamill, and then I was like, it came and went, and I never caught it, so is what it is. But yeah, like there's that model of comedy making, and then it's like Bottoms is a good example, or Dick's the Musical, of like, fairly new, fresh, unknown talent at the front of it. And it's really sort of like the writing and the filmmaking behind it that make that what it is, more so than like leaning on the star power of the cast.
Yeah. That's interesting. I forgot about that Burt Kreischer movie. Like, it didn't come out that long ago, did it? I completely forgot
like
about that.
Summertime, I think. When did No Hard Feelings come out? That was a summer movie, right?
Oh yeah,
late summer.
I liked that one too. I think late summer.
Yeah, because that was in the trailers during No Hard Feelings. So figure like it was a fall movie.
Yeah, that is interesting though. I like, you make a good point about the freedom to fail. Yeah, back then it wouldn't. Steve Martin didn't really have a great '90s across the board. He had some stuff going on in the mid '90s that was not like, they weren't a bunch. He didn't have a bunch of big hits in the '90s.
Even like, Bowfinger, which I love, is not a movie that was like super successful, and that's him and Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, and he wrote it, so you're like, oh, that's even more. Yeah, exactly. That was kind of like almost the turning point. It felt like it got him back on track, but not, like you're saying, not box office wise, more like quality wise.
Yeah,
he just had a string of movies in the mid '90s that weren't huge. It was like between Follow the Bride and Bowfinger was a little bit of a lull for him, but you didn't feel like I feel like people were allowed to have a run of a few movies that weren't hits, before they were written off as unsuccessful. And you think of like Tom Hanks, he had like 4, I think, kind of quote unquote bombs in a row. He had like The Burbs, Turn, Hooch, Bonfire of the Vanities, maybe Punchline, and then A League of Their Own, which hits, and then after that it's Philadelphia, Forrest Gump. It all just keeps going up from there. But yeah, if you had a lull in the middle of your career, it didn't feel like so dire. Now it feels like you don't get parts anymore. If you have a couple movies that suck, you go to movie jail, and that's not fair.
Yeah.
I mean, Nora Ephron probably would have, if she made a movie that did as badly as McStuds had done, she probably wouldn't get You've Got Mail. She probably wouldn't be able to make more movies. They'd say, no, I'm sorry. And I think, to be honest, they did it a lot more. They're harder on female directors in that way too, I think.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, they don't get as much room to fuck up.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't get to be part of the boys club where it's like, oops, sorry, I wasted your 20 million. Give me another 20 and I'll make it back on the next one, right?
Yeah.
Because she went on to she wrote Michael after this, which I like.
I forgot about Michael.
It's not as bad as the rating that I'm looking at, but yeah, she does Michael, and then it's You've Got Mail, then Hanging Up and Bewitched, which neither of those were well received, but then does Julia and Julia in 2009, which well received. But you're looking at like, okay, this was 94, and then 96, 98, 2000, so 2 years between projects, then 5 years after Hanging Up, 4 years before making a short or writing additional dialogue for a short, and then another 4 years between features before Julie and Julia. So
yeah,
and only 8 movies in her entire directing career, and none since 2009.
Yeah.
Even coming off the strength of a good one with Meryl Streep, right? Yeah, and Amy Adams, the Julie and Julia.
Oh yeah. And when did she die? She died like it was a few years ago, maybe like 2014 or something. It was like around the mid part of last
2012. So
wow. But I'd forgotten about Michael. I actually do remember liking Michael. I enjoyed that. I haven't seen it in forever, so I don't know, but I remember it being good. And I always think of When Harry Met Sally as a movie Nora Ephron directed, but no, Rob Reiner directed, but she wrote it, so it is very much a Nora Ephron's voice.
Yeah.
But that's probably why Rob Reiner showed up, here. I'm sure they're friends, and she got him to do a cameo, that sort of thing. So,
well, give Michael a chance. It's one of those movies like that I watched a lot when it came out, and it's like I saw it in theaters, and then it was on cable. Like in the following years, I watched it a bunch. I haven't seen it in a long time as well, so who really knows? But I like the core concept of that film, and I think it's executed fairly well. Even though it's only got, I think, like what is this, 5.7? That's pretty shitty, but.
Well, I remember it being decent. I remember the main thing I remember about it is just him like wearing like a duster with the wings sticking out, like line dancing at a bar.
Yeah, it's got a really creepy looking John Travolta on its poster as well. So maybe that didn't do it any favor.
And Andy McDowell's in that, right? Andy McDowell.
Yeah, she's great in it too. Let's see. I think now's a good time for some trivia.
Time for trivia.
But yeah, you had brought up that, Carrie Fisher's half-sister is in this. So we've got some other trivia to get into. Question 1. We had talked about Lee Schreiber and the fact this was his first feature film.
Crazy.
Comes on, maybe gives the best performance in the movie. But who was offered the role of Chris and turned it down? I'll give you a hint. It's another SNL alum.
From the mid-90s. I would think it would have to be somebody tall and kind of with a deep voice. I'm going to say, I don't know. I'll say Mike Myers. That doesn't fit either of the things I said.
It turns out it was a guy who lived in a van down by the river.
No way.
Farley was offered this role and said no.
What?
That would have been
wild.
I know. I started imagining like what Chris Farley would have been in that role, and I'm like, wow.
That would have been a totally different. That would have been so different. Like that, I can't even imagine. That's a completely different. Right? All those scenes would be 1,000% different. It's like, Oh, it would have been so much more comedic and like not really. I don't think it would have been taken as serious. It's like, yeah, that's wild to think about. I'm glad they went in the direction they did.
I
Yeah.
think it would have been a disservice to the character because everything would have been punchlines rather than, like giving this character an actual arc, a story, like a reason to cheer for them. But it makes sense because, like, the opposite end of the love interest spectrum was Adam Sandler in that case and Chris Farley, good friends. But yeah, would have been a way, way different character. And I think would have changed the entire movie by quite a bit.
It would have definitely ruined parts that I think are especially important and good in this movie.
Yeah, and I don't think it would have worked in the same way in terms of like representation. But Chris Farley didn't take it, and maybe given the chance, there might have been like serious like acting skill coming to the surface given the opportunity. But in another timeline, that movie exists, but not in ours.
Wow.
So question number 2, we had talked about this a little bit as well, that this movie came out in a pretty crowded Christmas week, but also a crowded Christmas month, as this was the 5th and final Christmas movie of 1994. Can you name 2 of the other 4?
Christmas theme movies of 94?
Yeah.
The Santa Claus?
Yep.
And there's one more, that you said?
There's 3 more. So if you can name 2 of those other 3, or excuse me, 1 of those other 3.
The Ref.
The Ref, yeah, great one.
Trapped in Paradise.
Oh, there you go. There's another one.
That's the Cage one. And I don't know about the 4th one. I don't think I'll be able to get it.
Miracle on 34th Street.
Oh yes, that remake. Yeah, okay, got it.
Hey, you got 3 out of 4. That's more than I expected. I was like, okay, I remember the Ref, I remember the Santa Claus, but not the other 2.
This is like the perfect time for me to play a game like that, because when I was younger, I would like study release dates and I knew all the movies that came out. I was a big nerd about, especially movies in the mid 90s, so that's why that works out for me.
Gotcha. Well, you killed it. Okay, and we also touched on this earlier. This is a remake of the 1982 French film Le Père Noël est une ordure. Do you know what that translates to?
I do, but I looked it up.
Okay, that's fine. Well, just give us the answer anyway. This is for the audience.
Isn't it Santa Claus is a stinker or something like that?
Santa Claus is garbage is the answer.
Oh, okay.
I'll say close enough. Though. That's pretty good.
Yeah. He's a real stinker.
Yeah. Well, we don't give out cash prizes here on trivia, so at least there was no money that you lost. I guess it's not surprising actually that maybe you're dealing with like Christmas movie fatigue by the time December 21st rolls around on 1994, and you see a Dumb and Dumber come out, and like that's a summer movie that's all of a sudden in Christmas, and Nora Ephron's got to compete with that. Plus, you've already got The Ref, which is a quirky sort of anti-Christmas movie that also made that like anti-Christmas movie list that I was working on like 3 years ago. And then you've got like the classic, very manicured sort of Christmas story in Miracle on 34th Street. And then you get Trapped in Paradise, which is sort of like another alternative. And then the Santa Claus is the sort of like traditional family comedy beat type of Christmas movie. So by the time that you see yet another Christmas movie being released, and it's like you're probably knee deep in shopping for Christmas presents at that point, you're probably tighter on money than you were at the beginning of December as well. So there's a lot of things lining up against this movie in terms of it being a box office success. But over time, it still ended up, managing to get it's got a 5.4 on IMDb. So that's not great. I think, well, what did I post from Letterboxd? It was mid-range. It was like 2.5, 3, maybe. It was not high, not low. But right there in the middle. And then Rotten Tomatoes had this at 14% critic score, but 57 audience score. So again, like critics really didn't like it. And then, audiences were torn. It was like some people really like it a lot. Some people don't like it at all, but better represented by audiences than it was by critics. And I know you're a Siskel and Ebert scholar, and I do see that we've got Roger's score up on the board for Critics Corner. So do you remember what Siskel had to say about it? Or do you want to go straight into Critics Corner and get to Roger as fast as we can?
Siskel said it was terrible. He said he said he feels like what happened with the movie was a bunch of actors agreed to do some short parts for Nora Ephron as a favor. Um, and then it like, but I think that doesn't make sense because actually everyone in the movie is in the movie for quite a while. Like nobody just shows up, Rob Reiner aside, nobody pops up for just like a scene. People who are in this movie are in it throughout. So I didn't really agree with what he said there about, you know, she just had a mess on her hands and people agreed to do it as a favor and blah blah blah. Yeah, that was pretty much it. He just said it wasn't funny and it was a tired comedy and just I don't know. They both hated it, unfortunately. But yeah, I do remember that comment though about lots of people doing small favors for director Ephron. I was like, most people are in this movie for about half an hour. So,
And even if it is a small favor, it's like, who cares? Like there's this thing that I like in movies where it's like I can clearly see that this movie was fun to make and that the people in it are having fun making it, and that
yeah,
makes it more fun for me to watch. And so when I see something like this and you have the kind of cast that you have in this and you have Rob Reiner coming in doing a cameo and you've got the Jon Stewart and Parker Posey characters that don't even have names, they're just Rollerblader and Rollerblader, you know? So to have them come in and be these kind of like throwaway characters, like that tells me that the people wanted to be involved in this because they thought it was fun. So I like that about it. And, you know, I guess a lot of people didn't, but we'll go to Critics Corner and we'll see how bad it gets because 14 is pretty low. And I see some zeros on the board to start, but we've got the Christian Science Monitor and the Los Angeles Times both gave it zeros. So I'll let you pick between the two.
Los Angeles Times.
LA Times, this is Peter Rayner. He says Mixed Nuts is a farcical, whirligig that doesn't whirl. It's energetically unfunny, like Radioland Murders, and like that film, it boasts top flight talent. Maybe the idea of making a comedy about Suicide Prevention Center just got to everyone. It's a bummed out comedy about being bummed out.
I disagree with all that. Top to bottom. I haven't seen Radioland Murders, but I remember it. But I don't think a lack of energy is the problem with this movie at all. If there is a problem,
it's not. Peter did not like the humor, and he cannot get past the sort of the gloom elements that help shape what the narrative of the film ends up being. Because, you know, we talked about this film for, you know, a little bit over an hour now, and we've acknowledged that, yeah, talking about suicide and presenting suicide and the way that you're going to do it for this movie, it's hard. And there's a lot of like darkness and sadness that comes along with this movie. And if you can accept that this is what the movie's trying to do and meet the movie on that level, you'll come away with a much higher score than zero. But this guy was definitely suffering from Christmas movie fatigue because this is published December 21st, 1994.
Oh, yeah.
Peter.
That is crazy. Like, just jumping off what you said there about having this is the 5th Christmas movie, and this one's opening 4 days before Christmas. Yeah, no wonder it didn't do well. I mean, come on. Yeah, that fatigue really, I bet, was set in. And also they gave this one no time to grow. But yeah, I don't agree with what Peter said. Like, I think he's putting a lot of his own shit onto it. Like, they must have just let this dark subject matter get to them. Like, no, it got to you, I guess. But like, why are you projecting that onto the actors? They're all doing their job and doing a good job. And like you said, they all look like they're having fun to me. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the holdovers earlier too, because I felt like in watching this last night, I was like trying to understand like what really like, you know, kneecapped this movie. And I was like, it's got maybe some scruffy characters that you don't necessarily bond to right away. And there's some strife, and the humor isn't necessarily like this fluffy sort of punchline driven humor. Like, it's slapsticky for sure. But then like watching the holdovers, which I think is one of the better, if not one of the best movies of the year so far. And to see that it has had such a nice, welcoming response, and that everyone I've seen talk about it has spoken of it pretty glowingly, lets me know that like there is room for Christmas stories that aren't, you know, the cookie cutter stuff. And there is room for darkness. There is room for depth. The holdovers, I think, does a better job of giving the audience time to like be in the downspace. So that way, like when you rise back up, it's like, oh, we're all like kind of coming back up together. The jokes work in that moment. And then when it needs to be heartfelt, it kind of slows down, lets it be heartfelt. It's a very different kind of movie, but I think I just want to say that I'm glad that that movie is having success where this one was sort of unable to find that success.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean, it's not totally dissimilar. I mean, I think what you're talking about, and I agree, is that this movie is vibrating on a different frequency, a more intense frequency than
vibrating
Holdovers.
is a good word.
Yeah, vibrating. Yeah. And it's like shorter, so it's all happening so fast. And the Holdovers has more room to breathe and to maybe make the characters feel a bit more real. But I also think that Holdovers, of course, has the benefit of the time, like we talked about, is the benefit of the pedigree of Alexander Payne. And actually, film festival. I think it played a festival. Like that's always good to get word of mouth going. But this almost feels like they dumped this movie to me in a way, like to throw it the last of all these Christmas movies, throw it on a day when there's like 5 other movies opening, not really promoted that well. Like I just don't think this movie really got the studio machine behind it the way it needed.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not. It seemed, they put it out to pasture and just like, well, hope it does what it does. But I mean, isn't Nora Ephron coming off of
huge hit?
This is
hit.
And Academy Award nominated for it as well. Yeah. So this like should have definitely been an opportunity to be a much bigger success than it ended up being, at least.
Or at least to trick people into the theater.
Yeah, at the very least.
The way that they always do. The way they always do. Yeah, try to trick you to get in the theater, and then you don't like it, but you spent your money.
Yeah. Okay, so we go to the 10s on the board, and that's the New York Times and the Washington Post. So you want to go Washington or New York with this one?
This is like 10 out of 10?
No, this is a 10 out of 100.
Oh, Jesus. What were they again? What publication?
It is the New York Times and the Washington Post.
Let's go New York Times. I want to see if it's my girl Janet.
It is Janet Madeline.
Yes.
Gave it a 10. Says staged as pure fluff without an ounce of ballast. Mixed Nuts succeeds only in getting its cast into Halloween caliber crazy costumes by the time it's over. I mean, I don't look at as much of this as like fluff. Like we said, slapstick, yes, but the actual content isn't fluff. So it's it just feels like a misread.
I agree. It succeeds with the with the costumes, but not only. That's not the one thing. Oh, Janet, come on, have a little fun. Have a sense of humor, Janet. Come on.
Where's your Christmas spirit, Janet?
Yeah,
she was exhausted too. Okay, so now we've got an 11 and a 12. One is Real Views, and the other is the Austin Chronicle.
Do Austin Chronicle.
Austin Chronicle. Let's see. I don't see anyone's name attached to this. It says, but though there's a cashew of Steve Martin's amazing physical comedy.
I'm already done.
Yeah. A couple of pecans of Sven Nykvist's beautiful cinematography and a few eye-catching filberts of a very Venice-y set decoration is not nearly enough to satisfy. Be forewarned. Open this can of mixed nuts and you'll find nothing but a bunch of goobers.
Next.
Really went on to the nut puns in that one, huh?
That is crazy. Like he spent the whole movie just thinking of that.
Right?
He didn't pay any attention. He was like, how many of these can I throw in here?
Yeah, what is in this mixed can of nuts? Because I'm going to use these to write a scathing review. This is a half cashew.
So dumb. I missed the one thing I did learn from that review is I did not notice that it was Sven Nykvist who shot this movie. He's got a lot of. I mean, he did like a lot of Ingmar Bergman movies. He did What's in Gilbert Grape, and then Chaplin, Sleepless in Seattle, also with Nora Ephron. Anyway, and it looks good. It's shot well.
Yeah,
but I mean that makes sense why. I didn't realize it had such a high pedigree behind its camera work.
Yeah, so on paper, you would think that this movie like would have had a shot at success. I mean, next year is going to be the 30th anniversary, right? So, hey, I can tell whoever you got to tell in Nashville, get a screening going, pump it up.
I'm bringing it back.
There you go. All right, so we got 338s on the board, but one of them belongs to Raj. So we got to go Chicago Sun-Times. Roger Ebert says, maybe there's too much talent. Every character shines with such dazzling intensity and such inexhaustible comic invention that the movie becomes tiresome, like too many clowns. So I think my favorite thing about Roger Ebert is that he always gives credit to the thing that he likes in movies that he doesn't like. And this, although it is a 38, it's well below the bar of like what would he consider a movie that he likes or thinks is good. He's very complimentary of the things that he actually liked about it, where all of these other people are just like, I'm exhausted and, I just want to get this published before Christmas so I can enjoy my holiday kind of thing. He clearly acknowledges that the characters are all good and that they all give good performances. And like, it's maybe too much of all of these characters giving good performances, where a movie like The Holdovers, you start with, it looks like it's going to be this big cast of boys and Paul Giamatti's character, and then it gets stripped down to just the three of them. And that's where it shines, is that it gives each of them room to breathe. They all have their own stories. They all like interconnect in that way, and they all depend on each other. And so, yes, I think it's a fair criticism to levy that there may just be too much going on in this particular story with this gigantic, excellent cast.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only one we've heard that I'm like, I can see how somebody would think that.
Yeah.
That it's just overkill, too much of a good thing. Sometimes in the movie, I feel that way, honestly. Like, I'm not with the movie from scene to scene. There's times when I'm like,
in the middle.
I'm over this. Yeah, there's a good 10-minute chunk in the middle where I'm just like, I don't give a shit about any of this. But then I get back into it. It's just, yeah, you can kind of fluctuate with this movie, but I understand what he means. Don't think that's low, but yeah, I mean, for something that you like, the parts and pieces, you just weren't into the final product. But do you, Raj?
It's okay, Raj. We still love you. And
Love you.
we end with a 50, which is the highest score on the board. So at least we cracked the halfway mark. There's nothing higher than a 50. At least not according to this. There may be if I search all 16 reviews, but this is the board that I'm working off of. And it's the Chicago Tribune. And it's not Siskel. It is Michael Wilmington.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I remember him.
He says, it's hard to create snap crackling, languor, or laid back frenzy. And there's also something condescending in the entire conception of mixed nuts. So this, to me, feels like a significantly more negative review than what we just read from Roger Ebert, yet he gave it basically like a pass in a pass-fail score.
Yeah.
Very strange.
What is the word he used? Cynical? What's the word? Like,
condescending.
What feels condescending about it? That's what I don't understand. Like, I'm like,
yeah.
I wish if I could talk to Michael Wilmington, I'd be like, can you elaborate on what? I don't feel like any of the performances are condescending. I feel like everybody's pretty in it. I don't feel like the writing really sells out the characters. I'm not sure what he even means by that, but
yeah, I mean, the best way I could put it is that it handles its heaviest themes kind of flippantly with gun violence, domestic abuse, suicide in general, but that it doesn't feel condescending to me. I don't feel like this is like, speaking down to its audience or to its characters. Like, there's a couple of like low-hanging fruit jokes that, you'd expect of a 90s movie with these kind of characters, but for the most part, I feel like, condescension is a little bit of a misrepresentation of what the tone actually is.
Yeah, I agree with you about, but I do think I see what you're saying about the way it's kind of flippant about some of that stuff. That I can see that rubbing people the wrong way, and maybe coming off as condescending if you were like, if it was something that was like, especially has like touched your life in a special way. I can see how you would think the treatment of it in this movie might be a little bit condescending because it's really using it more to set up jokes. So
yeah,
okay, yeah, that does make sense, kind of.
Okay, we'll give you the half credit that you gave this movie, Mr. Wilmington. We'll give you the 50.
Right. At least you didn't use the nut puns.
He didn't. Good for you, sir.
Thank God.
Did not take the low-hanging fruit there. But yeah, that brings Critics Corner to a close. I do have to wrap this up soon because I got to go pick up the dog from the doctor. But we're gonna do things a little bit differently. Normally, I'm like, hey, give me a gateway drug kind of movie for this, or give me something that you would feature as a double feature with this. But I'm more curious about your general like Christmas movie habits. I know you said you watch this one a lot, but do like you and your family have like a go-to Christmas movie, or do you have a personal favorite Christmas movie outside of this?
I would say the big one in my family is Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, me
Me
too.
and my cousins watch that. Well, we used to get together more, but we would watch it like every year. Um, I've probably seen that movie ever once a year since I've been alive, I would say. Well, no, that's not true because it came out 4 years after I was born. I've seen it a lot. I've seen it at least 30 times, if not more.
Okay, that's
I know
respectable.
the lines. We just know the lines back and forth. I mean, we've seen it so many times that we could like perform it. Um, that is the one I think that mostly is like the one that I've seen a ton, and that it was like a family tradition. Trying to think like Christmas.
Well, do you have like another oddball Christmas movie that like is outside of the cookie cutter frame?
Well, I actually would. We talked about it earlier, but I would say the Ref is a good one because
Yeah, that's
not
a
a,
great
a lot
one.
of not a lot of people know about the Ref. The Ref is a dark comedy with like family drama elements. It's
Hmm.
wild, but it's actually a good Christmas movie. I like that one. I haven't seen it in a few years. Actually, might watch it again now that we've talked about it because
I
I
might
want to
too.
see it again. It has a problematic actor in it, but
Yeah.
I but no, I might. That's every movie from the '90s.
Yeah, basically now, yes.
Yeah, but I might check that out. I'm trying to think if there was anything. I mean, Muppet Christmas Carol is great.
Yeah, a good one.
That's a classic.
Are you a fan of Scrooged? You like
Not
that one?
really.
No?
Not really. I like I know people love it, but
Yeah.
I've never been on the Scrooge train. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
It
I
just
don't I
misses
don't
me.
love
I'm
or
not.
hate it.
Yeah, it just misses me for some reason. I did rewatch Home Alone 1 and 2
Mm.
just because I haven't seen them in forever, and they were movies I loved as a kid, and now I'm like they're fine. But I should have just left. I maybe should have left it as a kid thing. Especially the sequel. The sequels that the whole conceit of the sequel is so tortured that it's so hard for me to watch the first like 20 minutes of the movie. They have it's just so much stuff that they do wrong, and you're just like, everything's going. I don't know. Once you get into the story, it's fine, but it's like, well, it's fine, but it's also the exact same movie as the first one,
Yeah.
including the older sketchy character you can't trust who becomes up being a good guy. Like it's crazy
Yeah.
how beat for beat it's the same as and then he finds a house, of course, to do his stuff. They're not bad movies. And Tim Curry's really good and useful in the second one to change things up.
Yeah.
His energy is good. Um,
Like
but yeah, those movies.
slap a 2 on it. Nobody's gonna know the difference.
Yeah. But yeah, those I watched those this year. Like that's been the two Christmas movies I think I've seen most recently. And they did kind of do a good job of putting me more so the first one in like the Christmas spirit, I would say. Because Home Alone does have some sweet moments, especially toward the end. I'd
Yeah.
say.
A good point. I
Yeah.
mean, I never thought of it when I was younger, but after doing the episode I did with Vanya for Rocky 4, it's like that is a movie. That's a Christmas movie. The main event takes place on Christmas Day. There's Christmas decorations around. You get what I was mentioning earlier, sort of that snowy Philadelphia feel, which The Holdovers has a lot of that. So it's like it feels like the holidays on screen. So that's a good alternative that I didn't consider before. Also, Eyes Wide Shut is a movie that takes
Oh yeah,
place at Christmas as well, and is
that's
so
great.
far removed from the regular Christmas movie that it's a great alternative answer. And the one that besides Christmas Vacation, which I've seen basically every year since like my stepdad came into my life because he had brought that movie to us. So the one that has become a staple over the last like 3 or 4 years is Anna and the Apocalypse, which is a zombie apocalypse Christmas musical.
Oh
And
wow.
I don't even know that it's like great, but it is unique at being what it is. And there's a couple like really catchy, fun songs in it. And it's like gory and fun. And it knows what it is, basically. It's not pretentious in trying to pretend that it's something that it isn't.
I've never heard of that, but
It's like
um, let me try.
2018, 2017.
Okay, I thought of one more. I don't know how big the Ernest movies are in other parts of the world, but Ernest Saves Christmas. All the Ernest movies are great. Ernest started here in Nashville. He
Yeah,
was
he
the
did.
spokesman for Purity Dairy. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, when we were little kids, we'd go to the Purity Dairy. They'd take us on the field trip and they'd show us like Ernest uh, little shorts with him in it. And so, and I actually used to see him around a lot. Like when I was a kid, I ran into him and because he lived like in North Nashville where I live. I saw him at like the store a couple times and he was really nice. Um, one time I saw him and he couldn't remember which Ernest movie he'd just made because he made so many. He was like, I think I'm doing the one with the eventually he's like, it's the one with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm like, okay, so that's coming out. But I will say Ernest Saves Christmas. I haven't seen it in a couple years, but I have seen that movie a lot and I've always enjoyed that movie. And I like Ernest. I think he's funny. So
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good one to close it out on. And when Ryan and I did our Ernest Scared Stupid episode, we sort of went through the whole Ernest universe. I think there's like 9 movies in the Ernest universe. So
I need to
uh
listen to that like now. Like tonight, I need to listen to that.
it was a lot of fun, and it was just interesting to see that, like, you know, he had gone from sort of like a regional celebrity to being like one of the biggest, most marketable movie stars, like just on his own brand, basically.
Yeah.
And it was Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Saves Christmas, Ernest Scared Stupid, and then Ernest Goes to Jail were the 4 that were all
Jail.
released as basically under the Disney umbrella for Touchstone. And so,
Yeah.
like, these were big movies. And I'm not even from Nashville, but I knew about Jim Varney and these characters. And Ernest Saves Christmas is one that I have probably seen less than the other ones, but I might make a point to watch it here over the next few days.
Yeah. I think I am too, just because I hadn't thought about it in a while, but when you were talking about, I was like, that is one that really was part of my life growing up that I need to revisit for sure. Um, I will say one last thing. So the independent theater near me is showing movies, holiday
Mhm.
classics for the Christmas. And I'd never seen Carol, and I went to see Todd Haynes' movie Carol with Kate Blanchett and
Yeah,
Rooney
yeah.
Mara, and that was great, like fantastic. I can't believe I had waited so long to see it. I've heard it was great forever, but it's a good movie that takes place around Christmas. That is like the tone is very much its own. It's very original, unique, and it's beautiful. It's just really, really a good movie that I recommend if anybody's looking for an offbeat Christmas movie that's not like treacly or they don't have any Steve Martin style speeches at the end of this movie, but
Or if
it is very good.
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want that mass produced like a prince for Christmas,
No.
and then the sequel, a princess for Christmas, and then a king and queen for Christmas. Yeah,
Right.
there's a lot of those. And I mean, between the two of us, I think we gave out like 7 or 8, you know, kind of alternate recs for Christmas season. So I think that's a good way to sort of just put a bow on the episode. Let it be what it is. I hope that if you do end up listening to this in time for the holidays or even just before December's over, that not only did you enjoy Mixed Nuts and enjoy us talking about it, but that you were able to find something else maybe that you hadn't seen and fold that into your regular Christmas watching habits. That's the true nature of Christmas, is sharing.
Sharing
So
and
Scott,
caring.
thank you so much for your time. It's been
Yeah.
great. We'll touch base and we'll make sure that we get another movie somewhere in the works for like maybe early next year. Probably be like springtime though. So keep
Yeah.
those gears turning.
I will. Thanks for having me back so soon. I appreciate it. This has been fun.
Yeah, it has
I
been.
always this is one of those movies that I don't ever get a chance to talk about because nobody's seen it. So it's nice to talk about it in depth with someone. It's a favorite of mine from back in the day. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, up until I had seen it a couple years ago, I had never heard of it. And then I think I saw one person mention it on Twitter and they did not like what they saw. And I forgot, I said something of like, oh, like the cast is great, like it's better than it gets credit for, something like that. And I don't know that that interaction ever ended up going anywhere, but I don't see anybody generally speaking about this movie during the holidays. So we'll do the promotion work for them. And then hopefully that'll lead us into the 30-year anniversary celebration next year.
Yes. I will say this real quick. I texted my best friend who we have nearly identical movie tastes. And I texted him and told him I was like, I'm doing a podcast about mixed nuts tonight. I'll send you the link when I get it. And he wrote back, I wish I liked that movie. So even we have the same taste basically, and he even disagrees with us on it. So just can't win sometimes. Gosh.
You can't, but hey, that means you get to have these kind of movies for yourself. And it's like just gets to be this little thing that you enjoy, like kind of in private. And you still got a chance to talk about it and share why you loved it and why we feel that it's wrongly derided here. But you know what? I think the best way to resolve this situation is if you haven't seen it, watch it for yourself. And then if you don't like it, I'm sorry. But if you do, you found a little Christmas gem that is not like all the other Christmas movies.
Yes. Don't take it too seriously if you watch it. Just
definitely don't.
Have a lighter. Yeah. They don't mean anything by it.
It's the 90s. Give them a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Happy holidays.
You too, man.
My thanks again to Scott for coming to hang out and celebrate the holiday season in style with Mixed Nuts. You can find Scott on X at Cole, Scott spelled out, and as a contributing writer at musiccitydrivein.com. But don't worry, because I will put the links up for all of his stuff in the show notes. And of course, thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to this episode. I know you have a lot of choices when it comes to podcasts, and I appreciate you spending your time with us. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you do, please consider leaving a rating and telling a friend about it. And the new support page is live at ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/badmovieswelove. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have a bad movie you love, and or maybe would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact me now at badmovieswelove@theshice.com or badmovieswelove on Twitter and Instagram, and that's love with an LUV. And as always, take care, be well, stay safe, and have fun however you get your movies. And a very happy holidays to you.